Revelation 1396. From the 28th of April 1940. Insight into the realm beyond. Spiritual seeing and rendering. It is up to the will of man to gain insight into the kingdom which is otherwise closed to him, because it exists outside of everything earthly. He must only set himself likewise outside of the earth. That what is supernatural in him, the spirit spark which God has put into his heart as a particle of himself, where his actual home is, the spiritual in him strives towards the spiritual outside the earth, and this spiritual guides it and leads it into the eternal glory. So the spirit can see everything in man, and nothing remains hidden to him. However, it is not always possible to make what is seen by the spirit accessible to the soul of man. The soul must first have developed its senses in such a way that it is able to receive what is offered to it. It must first desire the spiritual before it pays attention to the earthly. And this requires man's strong will and a deep desire for spiritual impressions. But if both are present, then there are no limits for man. He can let his gaze wander into that land which is unimaginable in its glory. All earthly concepts such as constraint, limitation and imperfection are eliminated. What presents itself to the eyes of the spiritually observant is fullest harmony, the most noble line formations, indescribable in its color tint, light and buoyant and not bound to the narrow limits of earthly life. It is all light and bright, and nothing inharmonious disturbs the graceful picture. It is a harmonious piece and yet nothing dead. It breathes all life and love, it is incomparable beauty, and it is the most changing impressions that God's Spirit wants to convey to his soul, but which cannot be grasped with human senses. It is therefore exceedingly difficult to reproduce what has been seen, for man's imagination is too limited to be able to form a true picture, but what the Spirit has once seen remains in it, and it seeks out those realms again and again in order to gather new impressions. At times it succeeds in imparting such impressions to the soul, and this always happens when the desire for them has become so strong in man that he completely forgets the earth. Then the separation from the bodily fetters is easier and their receptivity for spiritual images is greater. There are unimaginable glories, which the human eye could never behold, because splendor and magnificence want to blind it, and only a very high degree of maturity allows man to endure a conscious viewing. Man must have lost all connection with the earth. Then it is possible for him to have a look into those spheres already in his earthly existence. But in order to give people a small insight into those glories, God instructs his messengers to awaken the gift of imagination in some people, in order to be able to reproduce approximately pictorially what they have seen spiritually and conveyed to the soul, so that the desire for those glories will be awakened and increased. The beauty of the forms, the bright color splendor, the versatility of the creation's miracles is not to be reproduced, however, because the boldest fantasies do not reach in the remotest to those glories. And so it is only limitedly possible to give the earthly children information, and only the most heartfelt desire for this removes the veil which is spread over everything as long as the being still belongs to the earth. But it is possible for the sincere striver to lift this veil and to look consciously into the kingdom beyond, but then his departure from this world is not far away. Amen.